Good morning, YouTube. Snapdragon versus the M4. Interesting. So I looked this up, and I gotta tell you, I just about pissed myself laughing because of the stupidity of this all. Apple's panicking over speed wars with Snapdragon. Oh, we're afraid. We need to be faster and faster and keep the edge on top. Yeah, but how about somebody does the proper testing? I looked at this and I seriously just about pissed myself laughing, okay? It says right here on Google, in single core tasks, the Apple M4 is around 54% faster than the Snapdragon Elite. Okay, that's fine. So it's kicking its ass, right? However, in multi-core, the Snapdragon X Elite significantly closes the gap due to 12. Did you hear that right, kids? 12 performance cores, okay? Now, the Apple M4 they chose to test against, which was the wrong one, okay, has only 10 CPU cores, of which 4 are performance cores, 6 are efficiency cores. They couldn't even do a correct test, okay? If you're going to test something with performance cores to something with performance cores, how about we make it even, okay? Same with your efficiency cores. Let's make it even, because that is, folks, how you get a fair test. This is the worst thing I've ever seen in my life of stupidity at its best, okay? So Apple has an M4 chip that literally has 10 performance, 4 efficiencies, okay? So, let me think. I think that would be kind of fair when you think about it, because, well, you got 10 there, but wait a second, we need 12, right? We need something from Apple with 12. Does Apple have anything right now with 12 performance cores? Let's take a look at Apple's website, because I'm not sure, but, you know, I really think we should really take a good look at this. So I'm going to look at the MacBook Pro, okay, because it's got the juiciest chip right now, which you got to be fair here, okay. All right, so the M4 Max chip, it's got a 14-core CPU. Well, that's as far as that one goes, but can we crank it up higher? Yeah, we can go with a 16-core. Okay, so M4 Max, so we need M4 Max 16-core specs. Okay, so what do we got here? Well, we do have Apple support page. Okay. So the 14 core has 10 performance and 4 efficiencies. So trying to find the other one. And it doesn't look like we're going to get that. Oh, wait a minute. What do we got here? So 40 core, 16 core. See, they don't even tell us the 16 core how many performance and how many efficiency. That's kind of interesting, because we need the breakdown. Because even if it's the same, we need the breakdown. So that's not going to help us. All right. Okay, the M4 Max 16 core. That just still doesn't tell us. M4 Max 16 core. How many are P cores? 12P cores. There we go. We got an answer. All right, so when we look at our little Snapdragon, what did they say it had? They said 12 performance cores. So they don't list their efficiencies on that, by the way. But, however, given that our top drawer Max chip actually has 12 performance cores, that also means 4 efficiencies, okay? The Snapdragon has 12 performance cores. That's even. That's fair, okay? Anything else otherwise is BS, and it's misinformation, disinformation, false information, because their test is false. So they can't test a base chip against the Snapdragon and be fair. So this is, and I know some of you are going to argue with me on it, but let's be real here, okay? That would be like me putting my PC against my Mac. My Mac has an 8-core processor. This has an 8-core processor. This has 8 performance cores. That has 4 performance and 4 efficiencies. Efficiency cores are slower than performance cores. All my cores run all at the same speed, okay? Regardless where I set them, they run at said speed, okay? So, and I get to manipulate that way. Now, with all the Windows updates I've had over the last couple of years since my last testing for, you know, the whole Cinebench crap and video editing testing, all right, and all the graphics card stuff I've gotten for updates in the last couple of years on my Windows computer, my PC is now on par within a couple of seconds to my Mac Mini M1. Now, is that fair? Probably not, okay? I can still wipe the floor with my PC to any Mac. I mean, my PC will take out any Mac right now for gaming, okay, including the new M4s. M5s might be a bit of a challenge, but M4s currently, not a problem, okay? I can outgame. Anybody with a PC is going to outgame even the M4 top drawer chip, right? Because even if the same games are being played, you are still going to get a lot better performance on the PC over the Mac with the exact same game. Even if the one game on the Mac is accelerated for Apple Silicon, it makes no difference. I've seen recent testing, okay? And I'm like, yeah, okay, my PC still wins. Thank you, yeah, baby. Okay, so, because why? Because PCs are made for gaming. They are accelerated in the gaming world because, well, it's always been on Windows machines, right? So Mac have a ton of games, but the AAA stuff, that's another story. AA stuff, not a whole lot of options there either for Apple. Check out Steam, okay? There are a lot of games there that are Mac and PC, and not necessarily are those Apple-sided games accelerated for Apple Silicon, because they likely are not, okay? The only games we have that are accelerated for Apple Silicon are on the App Store for a comparison. So you find the game on the PC, the exact same game, find it on the App Store for the Mac that's already in Apple Silicon mode. Now you got something fair. If it's not accelerated for Apple Silicon, that means it's going to have to run under Rosetta, which is emulation, which means it's not going to perform as well, okay? So, yeah, half one dozen the other, okay? Apple's fighting a race that is BS with this kind of info, okay? Apple should not be panicking here, all right? Now, according to what I've found out, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, but it is what it's on the internet, the M4 performance cores are 4.45 gigahertz, okay, per core. So that's a bit of horsepower, okay? I mean, that's getting close to me. I'm 4.6 here on my PC. Now, on the M1 chip, that's 3 gigahertz for the E-cores and 3.2 gigahertz for the performance. Not a whole lot of difference there. So it's kind of like, why do you even bother for an extra 200 megahertz a core? It really didn't help you that much, okay? Plus, you got to look at, too, Apple has integrated GPU. What is Snapdragon using for a GPU? We'd have to look that up and find out. And I have not looked up the Snapdragon chip to find out if they're doing the whole SoC thing like Apple. However, we could take a minute and do that, okay? Does the Snapdragon have built-in GPU. Ba la la la. Yes, the Qualcomm Snapdragon processor has built-in graphics processing unit called Adreno. The Adreno GPU is integrated into the system on the SoC. So, same kind of deal. Everything's on one SoC, just like Apple. Okay? What about the RAM, though? Where is the RAM located? Okay? Built-in RAM on SoC. No. While the Snapdragon chip is a system on chip, which integrates many components including CPU and GPU, it does not have built directly onto the chip RAM. Instead, the RAM is a separate component that is connected to the SoC through a memory interface, meaning you need to install a separate RAM module when building a device using Snapdragon processor. Thank you, somebody did something right. Apple did not, because Apple put their RAM on there thinking that was the benefit, and obviously it's not. Because even if this Snapdragon chip that they've tested can kind of annihilate the M4 a little bit there because of the 12 P cores it has, it only has a CPU and GPU. The RAM is a completely different entity that you can do what you want with. Same as your drives, you can do what you want with, right? Apple, they have the drives separated from the SoC. Not that we can upgrade them, other than in the new M4 Mini, there is a third-party solution because Apple made it so that you could remove and upgrade that way. Pay their blood money or go third-party and do it yourself. Okay? Anyhow, so Snapdragon did prove one thing in this whole debacle. Okay? Having the RAM away from the chip and user upgradable is not affecting the performance. Okay? In fact, if anything, it's actually helping things out a little bit. But either way you look at it, it was an unfair test for comparing an M4 base chip to a Snapdragon when you've got a 10-core processor against, 12 performance cores. Okay, how many E cores? Okay, so let's take a look at that. How many E cores for the Snapdragon? X Elite. Let's get specific. Okay, so the Snapdragon X Elite has 12, I can't even pronounce it, CPU cores, which are considered the equivalency of E cores in the context of this processor. Core count is just 12, and they are P cores. So they should be able to slow down, I guess, because efficiencies do, right? But I guess they would be the equivalent of basically all E cores, but still be in performance at the same time. So I guess because of the clock speed. So let's take a look at this Snapdragon Elite X. Speed of the P12 cores. Okay, they're popping out the clock speed of up to 3.8 gigahertz and can boost to a signal to dual core speed of 4.2 depending on the specific model. Okay, so core count is actually 12 cores, base clock speed is 3.8, boost clock speed is 4.2 single/dual core. Okay, that's interesting. They got a really wacko configuration here. They're still kind of in the limbo of Intel, right? Intel, you've got a base clock and a turbo clock. I got a 2.3 on the base. I've got a 4.6 on the turbo. So they're doing this as a base clock of 3.8 with a boost clock of 4.2 when it's cranked right out. So it's kind of like a mixture of 2-in-1. Kind of interesting. So they're still kind of more or less like an Intel type thing and not really an ARM type thing. At least not what we know for Apple ARM, right? Because Apple ARM, it's all about you have this many cores total, and you have this many that are performance-only cores at this speed, where the E-cores are only at this speed. Okay, and when you're doing stuff in the E-cores, you get that. When you're doing stuff in the performance, you get this. Okay, so this is interesting because they're still actually working on friggin' archaic tech by saying, okay, well, technically they're performance cores, but they're lying because they're not performance cores, especially if all 12 of those cores can go between those speeds, right? So it's, I don't know, it's kind of a weird one here. I mean, I didn't expect that in my search. Okay, so it says here when all 12 cores are under load, they run at up to 3.8 gigahertz. The 4.2 gigahertz clock speed is only achievable under single thread or dual thread loads. Well, that's even more interesting. So what I would take from this is if you were to say, okay, well, I've got a Mac that has 12 performance cores and they're all running at 4.45 gigahertz, that's pretty damn fast, right? What they're saying here is those same 12 performance cores here, because they're claiming they're all performance cores, which I think is a little bit of misinformation, considering they run at dual speeds, which you can't do, okay, if that's what the case is, right? So they're saying we're only up to 3.8 gigahertz, so that means whatever testing they're doing, they're pushing those cores right to the limits, okay? So that 3.8 means nothing. Their testing is done at 4.2 gigahertz clock core speed, which would have to use all 12 cores, but only on a single or dual thread loads. That's the interesting part here. I don't know what the hell Snapdragon's done, but you know, whatever they are doing, obviously they have some drawbacks against the M4 base chip, but then they have an acceleration curve above it, right? Interesting. I mean, Snapdragon came out with, what was it, an 8-core? If I remember, it was an 8-core phone. All P-cores, right? So, and they're getting better performance out of any tasks you did and better runtime on the battery, even for probably the same size battery, I guess, for milliamps. So they did better than the Apple phones, because Apple phones, we're getting blood sucked for our batteries like crazy on crap we do, right? And it's kind of like, this is kind of interesting what Snapdragon's come up with here. And then they say, what is the maximum clock speed of the 12-core CPU in the X series? And it's actually only 3.8 gigahertz. So it's technically slower than the Macs and than the Macintosh M4, which is 4.43 or 4.45 or something like that. I seen it on a video where somebody showed us the speeds. And it's like, how is this thing even beating any part of the Mac, other than the fact that they're putting a 12-core chip that obviously, even in all 12 cores running at 3.8, I could kind of see it smoking out the M4 because it only has 4 performance and 6 efficiencies. And they still went for the wrong core counts. They didn't go 12 to 12, right? Because even Apple's 12-core processor for the M4 chip, which is the Pro, okay, that has 8 performance cores and 4 efficiencies. Their next level up is 10 performance and 4 efficiency. And then we get to the next level up in the Max chip, which we've already discussed because I don't remember that at the top of my head, but it's on video. Rewind it. Very interesting here, okay? So either way, still unfair testing against a Mac, okay? So Snapdragon wants to actually shoot their mouth off. They need to go against something with the same level of performance cores as far as P cores go. Not necessarily the speed, because you can't control that, because Apple they do P cores at this speed, and that's all they run at. The efficiency cores only run at whatever they've listed them for, okay? They can't go faster, they can't go slower. This, they're allowing 12 performance cores to fluctuate between 3.8 and 4.3. And that's a bit of a jump across 12 cores, right? So, again, not fair testing in any way, shape, or form. So, that's where I think this is definitely an interesting battle, which I don't think Apple has any reason to panic. They need to stop, okay? Anyways, that's what I got for you, so take it for what it's worth. That's the internet, so don't hang the messenger here. I'm just saying, okay, what makes sense here. See you on the next one. Ciao.